The little girl's voice was barely louder than the rustling leaves in the cold evening wind, yet the words she whispered would change 3 lives forever. She stood there in her worn-out pink sweater, her tiny fingers gripping her father's rough, tired hand, staring at a beautiful stranger across the park. Her eyes sparkled with a strange mix of innocence, longing, and hope that only a child who had lost too much too early could carry. Then she leaned closer to her father and whispered softly, almost shyly, as if afraid the world might hear her secret wish. "Dad. I want her as my mom." The man froze. Not because he didn't hear her, but because those words struck a place in his heart he had been trying to lock away for years. Before we continue, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet miracles life sometimes brings to broken people, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who believes in hope, subscribe to the channel for more emotional stories, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Your support helps these stories reach more hearts around the world. Daniel Harrison had never imagined his life would look like this. 5 years earlier, he had been an ordinary man with an ordinary dream. A small house on the edge of town, a loving wife named Olivia Harrison, and a newborn daughter they named Lily Harrison. Life had not been rich with money, but it had been rich with laughter. Olivia had a smile that made the world feel lighter. She loved dancing in the kitchen while cooking, loved planting flowers in the small garden behind their house, and loved whispering silly bedtime stories to Lily while Daniel pretended to be asleep nearby. For Daniel, that little home was everything. Until the night everything changed. It was a rainy October evening when Olivia left to pick up medicine for Lily's fever. She kissed Daniel on the cheek, told him not to worry, and promised she'd be back in 20 minutes. She never came home. A truck driver who had fallen asleep at the wheel ran a red light. And just like that, Daniel's world collapsed. The days that followed felt like walking through a nightmare that refused to end. Hospital lights. Police reports. The crushing silence of an empty bed. But the hardest part wasn't his own grief. It was Lily. She was only 2 years old when her mother disappeared from her life. Too young to understand death, but old enough to feel the absence of warmth. Every night she asked the same question. "Where's Mommy?" At first Daniel tried to explain. Then he tried to distract her. Eventually he just held her while she cried. Being both a father and a mother at the same time was not something Daniel had been prepared for. He worked long hours as a mechanic in a small auto repair shop owned by an elderly man named George Whitaker. The pay was barely enough to cover rent, food, and Lily's needs. There were nights Daniel skipped dinner so Lily could have a little more. There were winters when he wore the same thin jacket because buying a warmer one meant Lily wouldn't get new shoes. But no matter how exhausted he was, he always came home with a smile for her. Because Lily was all he had left. And she was worth everything. By the time Lily turned 7, she had grown into a gentle, quiet little girl with big curious eyes. She helped Daniel wash dishes, folded tiny piles of laundry, and sometimes waited by the door when he returned from work with a hug so warm it melted the weight of his entire day. Yet Daniel could see something missing. When Lily watched other children run toward their mothers at school. When she paused outside stores staring at Mother's Day cards. When she asked small questions like, "Dad, what was Mommy's favorite color?" Daniel tried his best. But he knew he could never fully fill that empty space. One chilly Sunday afternoon, Daniel decided to take Lily to Willow Creek Park. It was one of the few free places where they could escape their small apartment and breathe fresh air. The park was lively that day. Children ran across the grass chasing kites. Couples walked along the lake. Families shared picnics beneath tall oak trees. Daniel sat on a wooden bench, watching Lily chase pigeons with a rare burst of laughter. For a moment, he felt something he hadn't felt in years. Peace. That's when Lily suddenly stopped running. She stood still near the edge of the walking path, staring at someone. Daniel followed her gaze. A young woman stood nearby, feeding pieces of bread to ducks by the lake. Her long brown hair moved gently with the breeze, and there was something calm and kind in her expression as she knelt down to help a small boy toss crumbs into the water. Her name, though Daniel didn't know it yet, was Amelia Carter. She was new to town. A children's librarian who had moved there after caring for her sick mother for several years. After her mother passed away, Amelia found herself alone in the world, carrying quiet grief behind her warm smile. Helping children had always been the only thing that made her heart feel alive again. Lily watched her like someone discovering a missing piece of a puzzle. Then came that whisper. "Dad. I want her as my mom." Daniel's heart twisted painfully. He didn't know whether to laugh, cry, or apologize. But before he could react, Amelia noticed Lily staring at her. Instead of feeling uncomfortable, she smiled softly and walked over. There was something about Lily's shy expression that felt familiar. Like looking at a child who had known sadness too early. Amelia crouched down gently so she was at Lily's eye level. And in that simple moment, something unexplainable happened. Lily stepped forward and hugged her. It wasn't planned. It wasn't polite. It was the instinctive hug of a child who had been waiting years to feel a mother's warmth again. Daniel was mortified. He rushed forward, apologizing repeatedly. But Amelia didn't seem bothered. In fact, her eyes filled with tears. Because in that unexpected hug, she felt something she hadn't felt since losing her own mother. Belonging. Over the next few weeks, something beautiful began to grow. They kept bumping into each other at the park. Then at the library. Then Daniel started bringing Lily there every Saturday. Amelia would read stories aloud while Lily sat cross-legged in front of her, completely enchanted. Daniel watched quietly from the corner. He noticed how Lily laughed more. How she held Amelia's hand when crossing the street. How Amelia patiently braided Lily's hair one afternoon when Daniel admitted he had never learned how. Slowly, Daniel's guarded heart began to soften. But he was terrified. Terrified of hoping again. Because hope meant risk. Months passed. Then one evening, Lily fell asleep on Amelia's shoulder while they sat together watching ducks glide across the lake. Amelia looked at Daniel and whispered something simple. She said she didn't know how it happened, but somewhere along the way she had started loving Lily like her own daughter. Daniel felt tears burning behind his eyes. Because he realized something at that moment. He loved Amelia too. Not in the dramatic, fireworks way movies showed. But in the quiet, steady way a broken heart learns to trust again. And maybe, just maybe, their little family deserved another chance. Now before the story reaches its beautiful ending, we have a small request for you. If you've ever believed that love can find its way back into the lives of people who have lost everything, please write the word hope in the comments. It helps us know how many kind hearts are listening to this story. 1 year later, Willow Creek Park looked almost the same. Same lake. Same benches. Same rustling trees. But Daniel Harrison's life had completely changed. He stood there holding Lily's hand once again. Except this time, Amelia Carter stood beside them. Wearing a simple white dress. And a wedding ring waiting to be placed on her finger. Lily beamed with excitement as flower petals scattered across the grass. Because the wish she whispered that day in the park had come true. She didn't just find a beautiful stranger. She found a mother. And Daniel, he found the courage to believe in love again. Before we end, if this story touched your heart even a little, please like the video, share it with someone who believes in second chances, and subscribe for more emotional stories like this. Your engagement truly helps these stories reach people who might need a little hope today. Because sometimes, the quietest wishes spoken by a child are the ones that change the world forever.